Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
Or are you looking for somebody to be working at the front desk that has had a lot of experience at the front desk? Or do you look for dental assistants who've had lots of dental assisting experience? Is that your way of looking at it? Well, it was mine.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast. So today what I'd like to look at and to talk about is how do you hire people? Do you hire people based on experience? Is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for somebody to be working at the front desk that has had a lot of experience at the front desk? Or do you look for dental assistants who've had lots of dental assisting experience? Is that your way of looking at it? Well, it was mine early in my career. I almost always looked for people with a lot of experience. And what I began to realize is, if you're the type practitioner, if you're the type dentist who has solid systems and has really, for collections, for greeting people, for answering the phone, for how you bring patients back, how you do everything in your office should be set up, as you know, just like the E-Myth. The E-Myth tells you that everything has to be done in a certain way in a business, as if you were going to franchise that business, which is kind of interesting. And I read that book back in the early 80s, and it was one of those books that kind of changed the track of my career. It didn't happen overnight, but I wanted to have the system so solid that every system was trainable. Every system was something that not anybody could do, but somebody with the right personality could do it. And so what I would find is I would bring somebody in with a lot of experience, and what they would do is they would bring their previous experience, which you would think is always good. They'd bring that into the practice. And in a short period of time, and I'm not saying don't hire people with experience, but I said in a short period of time, what we would find is they would bring their past experience, what was successful for them and what was unsuccessful for them in their past office, and they would bring it to the new office. And even though it was something that I wouldn't be asking for, some of the systems in the office would begin to slowly change. Have you ever done that, where you've got a situation where you decided this is how we're going to take care of let's say recare. We're going to do it a certain way. And you have your team meeting once a month or once a week or however often you do it, and you're not paying attention on a daily basis. And we've talked about this quite a bit. You always inspect what you expect. But as human nature is, we forget to do that. And now we're 2 months down the road, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year down the road, and we start asking about our recare system. And the recare system is not even close to the way that you started that recare system and the way you wanted it. We wanted to send out For ReCare, we wanted to always pre-appoint, and then we wanted to call them 72 hours ahead, and then we'd call with a reminder. We sent a text, and then we'd call with a reminder a day before the appointment. And what I found was, well, that system was totally different. And why was it different? Well, it was different because that person who came in that had experience in this arena went to their old way of doing it, because that's what they were used to doing. And that can be great, because sometimes it's a new system that's better than the system that you have. I understand that. But I have expectations of the way I want to run my business. Now, early on in my career, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't understand it. So I hired based upon just about any category. If the person seemed like they were nice, again, early in my career, if you had a pulse, I would probably hire you. You remember some of the stories I tell about, going through team, one after the other. And I joked that everybody in Granbury used to work for me. I was such a bad boss. But the truth is, as we began to see these, and my office grew, and I began to see the people that I was bringing in were bringing all of their own experiences, and I ended up hiring 5 people, 8 people, 10 people. Remember, we went from a team of about 4 to 20 in the first year. And what I found was it was very difficult for me to keep any system in the office, because every time I'd hire somebody, the system would change. And so, and again, early in my career, I hired based on experience. And I hate to say it, but if the person was very attractive and a good communicator, well, they had the job. Not even based on experience. And what I found was, again, the difficulty in having what I called the model practice. And the model practice, I did a lot of study, a lot of work on what I wanted my practice to be like. That was what was important to me. This is the way I want my practice to be. These are the systems I want to have in my practice. It's not to say that it's my way or the highway like it was early in my career, but I wanted certain systems, and then I would evaluate each of those systems, and I would determine, this one's not working. I would talk to friends. I would talk to mentors. I would go to courses on different systems in my practice. What we teach at Productive Dentist Academy is these are the systems. This is what you do. This is how we greet. This is the new patient exam. This is how we do everything within the practice. Because if things are repeatable, consistently repeatable, and you see success in a system, doesn't mean you won't change certain things. I'll give you an example. In my new patient exam is always the same until I come up with a new phrase or a new way of talking about something, and then I'll place that into my one-act play, my routine, and I'll try it. If it works, great. I love it. If it doesn't, well, then I back away from that, and I'll try something else in the future as they come about. But I think what became very important to me, and we've talked about it, is when you're building an investment grade practice, or you're building a practice that has value for forever, that you want to make sure that your systems are very, very stable. My preference today is to hire somebody, and for the last 15 to 18 years, is to hire somebody based on their personality. That somebody that can look in your eyes and say hello with a smile, that has that character trait that people are drawn to, that people like. You see it every day. When I go to Del Frisco's in Fort Worth, there's 3 or 4 people there that I look at and I go, wow, what a great employee. I go to here in town to several of the restaurants, or I go to the bank and I'm talking to somebody, and you just see some people they're a positive energy. And I know it sounds crazy. You'd love for somebody like that to have experience. But the experience brings with them the baggage from their previous experiences. Root Laboratory, who I say is the best lab in the world, I always like to say that because I've been using the guys for 37 years. They don't hire people with experience in the lab business. They train exactly the way they want it done. And I found that really was very important in my own practice. I had to become a great trainer. I had to become somebody who could teach my employees exactly the way I wanted it done. Most of my team, besides hygienists, obviously, but most of my team are people who had very little or no experience in the dental industry. So to me, it's extremely important for them to teach it my way. We're running a play. Our play has lines. Our play has certain roles and characters, and I hire for those. And we have the systems in place. Now, if I'm a brand new dentist just starting out, yeah, I hired somebody with Dentrix experience because that was the software. And certainly it wasn't when I first started because there weren't computers when I first started. But yes, I got somebody with that, but you have to be very careful and to really train. Training for an investment grade practice, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing that you can possibly do. Take these employees, teach them exactly the way you want it done, and then take the time. It might be once every month. It might be once a week. Take a look at that system. Take a look at that front desk, how they do things, and evaluate it. Give them feedback. Help them become the best version of themselves, the best front office person. Because my goal is I want to have the best chair side. I want to have the best hygienist. I want to have the best across the board, in all those different arenas. And is it easy? Well, if it was easy, anybody could do it. And so, no, being a dentist and having a team of however many people you have, no, it's not easy. It's very difficult. But this has got to be an intentional activity. It's got to be something that you do on a regular basis. And what you'll find is the better job you do up front, the less worry you have in the long run, and the easier your practice is going to run, and the less stress. Remember, what happens to productivity when you're under stress? Goes up. Well, I love it when it goes down. I love it when you're checking the things that you need to check. So anyway, that's the podcast for today. Do you hire for experience, or do you hire for personality and how that person is? So thanks again for the voting on the podcast, and I look forward to sharing the book Legendary Leadership with you in the future. Here's to next time. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.